Unemployed and Afraid acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this episode on and of the land where you, the listener, are tuning in from. We would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and extend our respect to any First Nations, Aboriginal, and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today, acknowledging that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid, a podcast that explores the messy middle of being out on your own and starting over with the people who've done it. I'm your host, Kim Curtin. Thank you for being here. Let's get into today's story of starting over. Hello, listener. Big love to you wherever you're listening to this story of creating a brand and business from today. And it's a hell of a story too. My guest is the lovely Nadia Stamp, founder of Dipped Nails, media personality, and fellow Adelaide gal, who shares with us how a chance meeting, mid-airport meltdown, turned into a business with a $3 million turnover. Nadia shares so much more than her business journey in this episode. She gives an insight into the world of being a public figure, her challenge of finding her identity on a public platform, the power of finding a business partner who trusts and believes in you and what you can achieve together, and the very real challenge of navigating business partnership on a person-to-person level. So what is it like to go from a $2K investment into 150 products to packaging $20,000 worth of orders in a day? Nadia invites us into the chaos. We hope you enjoy this chat. I'm here today with the effervescent Nadia Stamp, former TV personality and marketing consultant, and now founder of Dipped. Dipped, that's DIPD, is the original Australian dip powder nail system that gives you a sleek salon manicure on demand that you can do yourself at home. Nadia created this business with her business partner, Natalia. They're both passionate about empowering women to take control of their manicures and live by the philosophy that if they don't love and use their products, they're not selling them. And now I don't want to ruin too much of this amazing story, but I will tell you that they had no idea that a business born out of need, mid-lockdown, would turn into big business and a $3 million turnover in such a short time. With tens of thousands of customers loving this amazing product, Nadia's dream of saving you money on manicures and enabling you to do your dip nail SNS system without having to visit the salon is well underway. And I cannot wait to hear all about it. Nadia, welcome to Unemployed and Afraid.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here today.
I'm so excited to have you, and I feel like we eventually had to hit record because we could have inadvertently done an entire podcast without the recording.
I know there was a lot of gold there in our conversation. No, it's fantastic to be here, and yeah, I'm just really excited to share my journey, and yeah, it just feels really right for me.
And what an amazing journey it is. But before we get too deep into it, I would love to know, how would your husband Glenn describe you?
He would describe me as always on the go, always busy. Look, to be honest, I never really thought about it. He would describe me as probably taking on too much all the time. But I think I always say to him, like, imagine your life without me. It would be so boring because I bring all the fun. I mean, that's what I say to him. And he just, look, he's always brought that sense of security, and he's like my rock, Glenn. And he's always been supportive of any idea I've had, you know, and I think that is so important. Even when I started Dipped, he said, Nadia, please don't worry, because there were lots of tears
naturally
when we started and moments. And he would say to me, if you make $5, if you make nothing, if this business turns into something, don't worry, I'm here for you. If tomorrow there's no Dipped, don't worry, you're going to be fine. We're in this together. It's fine. And I think that just always gave me that sense of, I'm having this moment, I can get through this, and let's see what tomorrow brings, or let's see what the rest of the day brings. And so it was always a step at a time. I never really knew where it was going to go, and here we are.
Let's go back. So well before Dipped, and I'm going to try really hard not to make any dip puns throughout this, but I can't promise you that's going to happen. Before Dipped, who were you?
Before Dipped, I felt like I was always owned by people. I'm a chronic people pleaser, constantly have a list of things to do, and I never get through that list. And I think it's just something that I've always created in my life. So I have this, I don't write lists out, but they're always in my head of all the things that I have promised or I'd like to get done and do. And I've always wanted to live a life less ordinary and go out and do as much exciting things as I can. Also suffered from FOMO, pretty much my entire life, making up for lost time. I don't know where I've lost that time, but probably in my teens when I used to sit around in my bedroom wondering when I'm going to get a chance to sort of live my life and be independent, and where is my life going to lead? Now, I always took risks and I always took opportunities my entire life. I would part-time model, lifeguard, always spinning a lot of plates, worked at the radio station where I met you, worked on air. I would be the kind of girl that would do location crosses on Street Crew, and straight after the last location cross at 2:30, I would time it so that I would then be on stage in Rundle Mall presenting maybe a model search or whatever event they required me for, and I would squeeze it right in so that there was no time for error, if that makes sense. That was my life. And I remember my mum, I needed to call my mum in, and I never call favors from my mum, but I needed her to be my courier for the day and drive me around, because I knew that I wouldn't get from A to B without having her drive me there and drop me straight at the door, because I had to park and I knew I had to go and get dressed by a clothing design. I had to rush down and grab the microphone and step onto the stage. So my life was always just like jam-packed full of things. And sometimes it failed and I messed up and I didn't kind of get something done. I'd miss a lot of flights. If I'd travel anywhere, always missing flights, always rushing. That was my life. And then I think, then I did go on reality TV at one point. So I did end up living in Queensland after being in Adelaide for most of my adult life. And again, I was trying to jam everything in. I did realize, though, living in Queensland is very different from living in Adelaide. Everything's 15 minutes, 20 minutes away in Adelaide when I lived there. In Brisbane, it's really sprawled and spread out. So you can imagine like getting from A to B, it takes a lot longer. There's more traffic, there's bigger highways, and people exist between Brisbane, Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast. So I was finding I needed to cut down my expectations because I was getting really stressed because I wasn't getting as much done. So in my day, I'd be like, Nadia, choose 1 to 2 things a day. In Adelaide, I could choose 5 things and I could get those 5 things done. In Brisbane, it was like choose either 1 or 2 things. If you stretch beyond that, you're going to fail. Because I kept on making mistakes, like taking, tunnels and getting lost, GPS, getting messed up, ending up on the wrong side of the country or Brisbane, and then, reality TV sort of happened after that. I was sort of in that 30-year-old mindset. I was 36, 37, and I still was very single. And I felt like I needed to break a bit of a cycle because I wasn't dating good people. And more than that, it wasn't whether I was dating good people. It was that I wasn't respecting myself in relationships, and therefore it was never amounting to anything, and long-term relationships. So I was doing as much as I could. I was doing fun things, like fantastic things. I've ticked off a lot of things in my life. I've did Miss Universe back when I was, in my 20s. I would go and do modeling assignments interstate. When I moved to Queensland, I was doing a lot of TVC commercial stuff. I was picking up some presenting roles as well. Life wasn't so bad. I was lifeguarding on the side. I was kicking around a pool, getting a tan, just doing fun things. But my relationship side of things was really dismal. So Married at First Sight happened, and then that was just bizarre because I think I was just very, very authentic to who I was. And I've always felt like in reality TV, I didn't know much about reality TV, but I always knew in my heart of hearts that being authentic and real and honest was going to win. Not win, but was going to help me get through unscathed, if that makes sense. Because you can go on a show like that and you can absolutely be creamed and made into a villain if you're in there for the wrong reasons, because I knew that I was there for the right reason. And the right reason was that I needed help being matched to somebody, or I needed maybe someone to say, look, this is a guy and he's your age and he's the right kind of potential match for you. Give it a go. Because I wasn't going for any of the right things. Trust me. So that really helped me step outside of my comfort zone, because I really felt uncomfortable walking down the aisle and seeing someone at the end of the aisle who I wouldn't have gone for, who I didn't feel was right for me, but he was closer in age, and he actually, there were so many things about him that could have been very good for me. But he ended up not being a good person for me and treated me pretty disrespectfully on national television. So all of a sudden I went from, this was aired for 3 months, I think, and I'd already gone through the whole process, and I had to sort of keep quiet and about really what had happened. And I had all of these people up in arms about my decision of staying with this guy and how he treated me so badly. And of course, you don't see the other side of the camera when he's having interviews away from you and what he's saying about you. And so I was seeing all of this back after it had all happened and thinking to myself, oh my God, did he say that? Oh gosh, like I was so invested. So I was very blindsided by that. And I think that was first lesson. I think the second lesson in that was that it was a circuit breaker for me. I needed to be thrown to the wolves because I was so, I think like anybody, we get so scared of taking risks. And we're so comfortable where we are, but we'd like to do this and we'd like to do that. We have a list of the things that we need to get done for everybody else, the things that we need to get done for life. And then we have this list of the things that we'd like to do, whether that might be reading a book, it might be starting a business, it might be anything that is for you. For some reason, that list gets pushed right down to the bottom. And you never get to that list because if you're like me and you jam pack your life full of life and everything, you never get to sit down and do your personal admin. And so if you're not getting your personal admin done, that list will just never really see the light of day. So I guess for me, I was thrown to the wolves. That was the first circuit breaker for me because I was all of a sudden, I had to be accountable, not just to myself. Yes, I realized that I wasn't as bad as I thought in the sense of my relationships. Like I thought that I deserved potentially being treated like that, or I maybe just didn't believe in myself enough. And I needed to sort that shit out. And so for me to sort that shit out was to live more authentically for the next part of my life. So after the show, it was very much me trying to find myself again. So yeah, I had lots of nights out drinking. Yes, lots of events, lots of people giving me free things that I didn't want and a whole new wardrobe that now I look back on and I think, gee, I didn't get out of activewear for a good 3 years. But, you just take all of the free things and you're trying to, everyone's demands are, you got to promote me, and it's not good enough and you've got to sell my business. And I'm not asking for anything in exchange. They're just giving me product that I don't probably even really want. So a lot of it was like that. There were some great things, don't get me wrong, and great opportunities, but I all of a sudden became an influencer. Look, I knew what it was to be a model back when I was younger, but that is a completely different ballpark. You have a makeup artist, you have a photographer, you have a stylist, you have a wardrobe. They take photos of you. They do whatever they want with those photos, whatever the commitment is. They pay you, you walk away. That's your only commitment. You don't have to share it on your personal page. You are like an actress. So it doesn't reflect on who you are as a person because it's not your choice. Does that make sense? You're being booked. That's your job. You're like an actress. So I guess this whole influencer thing was really tough. I had to find my identity on a public platform. I had a choice whether I did or not, but at the same time, I have a marketing background and I did know that having all of these followers were valuable somewhere along the line. But also what people don't understand is that I have a very strong relationship with a lot of these followers. These people are the ones that stood up for me, who would send me countless messages when I was going through some really hard times. And I'm going to get emotional because people don't understand, oh my gosh, how important that was to me, because I didn't respect myself in so many ways when I was on that show. Oh my God, I don't do podcasts because I get too emotional. So those followers meant a lot to me. I spoke to so many people in a space of 3 years that I would never have had the opportunity to speak to. It's a blessing. in some ways, because these people share their life with you and they're sharing their experience with you and their love relationships, their failed relationships. Everything that I went through was reflecting in other people's lives, and they wanted to reach out and share. So we shared moments. I've shared so many moments, and whilst those followers have dropped off and I've gained new ones, the ones that have stuck by me from that very, very beginning, they mean a lot to me. So Instagram is a weird thing. I don't want to just pick up any freaking product and spruik any piece of shit on Instagram to people who I genuinely care about. And I felt like, sorry, since having a baby, sometimes my words don't come to me.
I don't have an excuse of a baby, but my words don't come either, so don't worry.
Oh my God, thank you. But I felt responsible. Like if I've got to be a responsible human and not just flog anything on Instagram. And that wasn't the reason why I went on a TV show either. Like I genuinely went on to find love, and I didn't. I got absolutely creamed. Anyway, so look, that was who I was. So Instagram has been a part of my life now for a good 5 years. And I probably had 1,000, maybe 2,000 followers before I went on a show. What does it mean? Absolutely nothing in the sense of status. But what does it mean to me? Having these followers means that I've got people who genuinely like what I share with them. I don't have assholes on there anymore. Like I don't have, trolls and people who would say horrible things to me. And I think that that's attributed to the type of content that I do share. I don't share everything. Like I was on reality TV. Yes, you saw my bedroom. I would wake up to the mornings and say hello to the TV. I was in everyone's home. It's not the same. Like I share what I feel comfortable sharing. And I think people have started to respect that. So yeah, that's who I was. What was the question again? I just totally went through a roller coaster. Didn't expect to share that, but it has molded who I am. And I think take away that whole branded what Married at First Sight is nowadays and what we all think about reality trashy TV. For me, it was an experience that I needed, and it somewhat healed me, which is an area that I needed to take that next step in life.
I want to come back to the list first and foremost, and
yeah,
all of the things that you have on your list when you want to achieve something, no matter what that something is. And perhaps for you, it was opportunities within the entertainment space and ways to grow your personal brand and your business. And so you're kind of seeking those, but inadvertently leaving yourself at the bottom. It's really
yes, it's like everything personal, and that's so true, because I used to always focus on the opportunities, the commercials that I was doing, and what that meant. But to be honest, that is quite a narcissistic desire in some respects. Did I ever classify myself as being so selfish? Probably not. Now that I've got a family and a bigger picture, life is different, and it's got a different meaning to me now. But back then it was all about building who I was. And I remember working on radio and working with Sean Craig Murphy, which you'll know. And I remember when I was doing a lot of work at the Australian Radio School, when I went through radio school, and we were chatting, and he sort of said, you're a person who's had a lot of experience in life, and you've done so many things. And that was back then. So you need to allow your listeners to understand that and grasp that a bit more. Like, don't dumb yourself down is pretty much what he was sort of saying to me. And I feel like, yeah, that was what I was doing. I was constantly in my life just going for it, but not really focused and for everyone else. But what was that drive that was driving me is because I just didn't believe I was good enough ever. And when you don't believe that you're good enough, then you keep on feeling like you need another feather in your hat. I'll be better if I get another feather in my hat. I'll be better if I get Miss Universe Australia and a sash. Like, who cares? But it was all like what I thought about. I'll be better if I do X amount of commercials for the year. I'll be better if I get a presenting job here or get that role there or whatever those things are. That was my life. Now I am esteemed, self-esteem in a very authentic, positive way, being older, wiser, more experienced, dragged through shit. Got to the other end now. I see it clearly and it's different. I can think about other things and I can prioritize my stuff now too. I've got a little girl who is important to me and her future is important to me. And the decisions I make now can mold her future too. and also expose her to good things.
If I go back to the opportunity chasing, if I have this, which so many of us relate to when you're a high achiever, I want to do this, I want to do more. Really what it sounds almost like you just to be connected and to be seen. And, Instagram gets a lot of hell, but the relationships that you can make in that space, they don't have the baggage of long-term friendships or family members or anything like that. You got to find people who are like, hey, you're interesting. Hey, you're in, and they connect and they give you a part of themselves, and you create these relationships that enable you to grow.
I've got people on my Instagram who followed me from the very beginning, and they share with me. They even check in. Are you okay? Like, I just haven't seen you for a while. Just making sure you're okay. Took me a while. Like, you always put the creep, these people.
Filter, yeah.
Filters. Oh, trust me, when I started, and look, to no offense, but I did attract some very unusual people requesting different things, and very, very strange people. But where are they now? They want to be in your pocket. They become obsessed, and they want to be your best friend for your 5 minutes of fame. And those are the people that I needed to get in and out as quickly as I could. So it's great that they're not hanging around anymore.
It's a fascinating world. I mean, I was just telling you before we hit record, I recently read the book Stolen Focus by Johann Hari. And he talks a lot about the world of Instagram and the two filters of it, how it keeps you engaged on it as a user, having to garner that safe space back for yourself within what is being designed essentially as a space to capture your attention and keep you on and keep you engaged. So I find Instagram just a deeply fascinating topic in that respect. What a hell of a journey to have gone through already at such a formulative time of your life as well, when you're challenged through the dissolution of relationships and trying to find that person that's going to be there for you and to lift you up. I want to take us back to April 2020, which I know in reading a little bit about your story was a pretty pivotal time for you. I believe at that stage you had moved to Melbourne, to the big city, and then you were going somewhere else, and this was starting to change. Take me there.
So 2020, my partner and I were really struggling together. Like, I'll be honest, he hated living in Melbourne. He'd moved from Geelong to Melbourne, and he also had a lot of cricket commitments in Geelong, so he was up and down the highway. And I was wanting a family. I wasn't very focused. I was working for other people. There was still a lot of attraction to the fact that I'd been on TV, so there was still a lot of that superficial shit going on in my life. Lots of events. It was quite vacuous. I didn't really feel like I had a posse of real friends. I felt like in Brisbane, I'd have my girls that I'd go cycling with, my girls that I could just do stuff that was good for the soul with. In Melbourne, I didn't get that. I didn't find those sorts of friendships. It was like, let's go out for cocktails. It wasn't anything wholesome. Love them. Don't get me wrong. I do have some girlfriends that are amazing from Melbourne, but as I said, I just didn't feel like I didn't feel like I belonged. I felt like it was this big mad city, and I just felt like I was there, and the moment I ducked out, I'd be forgotten. Like my friends, like no one would call me. Does that make sense? Like no one would check in and make sure.
I hear you. I've moved Sydney to Hobart. I'm like, hey, what did I drop off the planet?
Exactly. Oh, where have you been? I rock up to an event. Oh, it's good to see you. Oh, you had a baby. Oh, nice. Oh, I didn't know you weren't living here anymore. Literally, that's what it was like. So we decided that we would move back to Geelong for him. And I would just commute because I was consulting as a marketing consultant for various brands, mostly dentistry, beauty, so skincare, proper clinics, and also fashion as well. And I was commuting up and down the highway, and the traffic was pretty horrendous. As you know, with Melbourne, it can be if you get a bad day. So it was quite exhausting. And I was thinking, oh God, how am I going to do this for the rest of my life? Making ends meet like this. So once we moved to Geelong, we stayed with Glenn's mum, so his parents, for 10 days until our place became available. And in that time, we saw the pandemic hit China, and we didn't really think much of it. We just thought, oh, well. And then by the time our place came available in March, all the toilet paper disappeared, and we thought it was a bit strange. And then everything went into lockdown, right, as we all know. And all of the industry that I was working in got shut down. Anything that was high contact with the face and mouth. So fashion was kind of like you don't need to be open, just shut it all down. So I was kind of like trying to work remotely and help everyone pivot as quickly as they could to online. So setting up online stores, just basically getting that quick journey to change. And it was really stressful. Every month it changed, as we know, with what the lockdown was doing. So I pretty much had no work, and I was contracting. I was always working by the hour, contracting my time. And I didn't know what to do. I kind of just took a moment and I just was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, I was trying to hold on to as much work as I could, but it was really hard because businesses were really struggling. And to be honest, they were only holding on to what they could. And I didn't fall under that category where I could get paid by any employer. And I didn't want to go on the dole at the time. It wasn't really an option. So I was just sort of sitting around at home. I went and bought all of these books. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to read these books for a few weeks because that's the time that we're taking off. And you wouldn't realize it was going to turn into this massive pandemic. And then, so get this, I'd probably about 6 months earlier, I'd met a lady at the airport. It was a moment when Glenn and I were having a really hard time. And I was really struggling because I was thinking, do I move back to Queensland? Like, I wasn't enjoying the cold weather in Melbourne. I just felt a bit miserable. Like, I just missed my friends and I missed a community. I didn't have a community. I had Instagram, but I felt like if I wanted to see people, I had to go to events, you know, and I was always had to be on in Melbourne, whereas I just missed that wholesome feeling. So I went to Queensland on a little holiday to visit my girlfriends, came back to the airport and kind of got my times wrong, and Glenn didn't realise, and I locked myself out of the house, and he was working, and he works in civil construction, so he was stuck in the middle of a road in the middle of somewhere, and it was completely impossible for me to go and get keys from him. So I was having a meltdown. I was sitting there at the airport, bawling my eyes out, all emotional, because I just had a really nice time in Queensland with friends. And I just felt like, what am I doing here? I just feel so stressed. This was six months before the pandemic happened. And I was just sitting there just in tears, like it probably like people walking past going, geez, what's wrong with this lady? Some people probably, oh my God, that's that girl from Married at First Sight. Oh, I'm going to cry already on the TV show. Just people are just like looking at me strange. And then this lady walks past with 2 kids attached to her, one in a sling and one in a pram. It's like, are you all right? And I'm like, oh, look, I've just locked myself out of the house. I'm just having a moment. I just feel like really shit today. She's like, it's okay. We all have these days. And she just stopped and had a chat. And that's who Natalia is. She's just one of those people. She'll just talk to just anyone and give anyone the time of day. She's a very special human. And the funny thing is that we just started talking. She recognized me from the show. And then she's like, oh, you know, like, I'll take your number. And we swapped numbers randomly. And she started a business and sort of would ask me every so often for a little bit of marketing advice. And I'd just give it to her and we just chat marketing. And we'd check in on each other. It was really nice. We just had that moment. And so she sort of became this friend, which randomly met at an airport while I was having a meltdown. And then it was so strange. And then it's funny because her business didn't really fly and I could see the reasons why. Like it kind of was a little bit of pocket money for her, but it didn't really sort of go to the next level. And she asked me at one point if I wanted to jump on board with her. And I just thought, no, it's not really my kind of product. Then she said to me, look, if you ever think of a product, let me know. Then when the pandemic hit, she sent me another message saying, look, if you think of anything, let me know, because now is the perfect time, especially while the pandemic's down, because her mind's always ticking, you know. And I was sort of stuck in this situation and never been in. And all of a sudden I had support. I had someone else who really trusted and believed in what I had to say about business. And that's where the magic happened, is that she was great at sourcing products and really would do the research and really give things a go. And I always had ideas and would always daydream about things and come up with concepts and ideas. And I could really sort of see how things have vision of how things need to be sold and how they need to be marketed. And I'm quite good at the creative. So we worked really well together. So then I was getting all of these sponsored ads come through. And I'm sitting there with my SNS on my nails, not able to get back to a salon. Because when I was in Melbourne, I got obsessed with SNS, which is like a dip powder system, which is dipped. And I was getting all of this like manicure ad stuff coming to me because I was obviously searching for it because I didn't know what to do. I was like, I need to get this off my nails. So I thought that just a trip down to Bunnings was going to solve the problem of removing it. I got some sandpaper, some acetone. I was trying to emulate what they did in the salon, trying really hard to remember.
Also, like the only store that was open.
Yeah, that was the only store I was allowed to go into. And then I spoke to her and I said, listen, there's American companies who are trying to sell their products, and it just done a little bit more research, and SNS isn't SNS. SNS is a brand. It's actually a dip powder system. Now, I'm looking at America. They are obsessed with this product. She's like, well, I can get, how about gel, like with a UV light? I said, no, that's old school. Been there, done that. No. She wasn't a manicure girl like I was. And so that's when it all started. But then the borders were all so closed. The world factory of China kind of shut down overnight. So we couldn't get anything from China. So we had to start looking around Australia. So this is where the key is with us, is that we worked out that it's a dip powder system. Second thing is we knew it was successful because, well, it could be successful because America is really successful with it. And secondly, there were so many women with SNS still on their nails and trying to work out what the hell they were going to do, either to get it off or to reapply it. So we went searching and searching, researching. Oh, there were times when Natalia was sitting outside the front of a manufacturing company with her kids in the car, knocking on the door, begging them for jars because that's what they supplied. We would go and, we were getting products from all over Australia, but we found a manufacturer of this product and she was supplying to salons. That was her bread and butter. But salons were closed. So we became her biggest client. Now, the key here is that we were Australian made. No one else is. No one else to the general public. And the powders were Australian made. And that was the start of Dipped. Australian made, owned by two mums. Well, I wasn't a mum then, but we were both unemployed. And it was pretty daunting, but so we started. Do you know what we thought? This is how silly we were. We're like, how much money do you have? How much money can we spend? I'm like, okay, well, I'll put $1,000 in and you put $1,000 in. Now we'll just buy 150 kits. We'll make up 150 kits, okay? And we'll just flog those off. We'll help people get their salon nails off and then they have a kit and we'll just help them out and, that will just get us by. Just get us by until the pandemic ends. And that's how silly we were, thinking that, okay, yeah, we definitely wanted to help people, but we thought 150 kits was going to be enough. So we released it on Instagram saying, hey, if anyone's got SNS still on their nails, I've worked out how to get rid of it, how to get it off your nails. We sold the product on her other business site, so it wasn't even dipnails.com. So for the first 7 months, we were selling it off a hair tool, like Crimped, which was like a mermaid hair wand website, because we didn't know if it was going to go anywhere. So it wasn't even like so we called it Dipped and we put it on to the Crimped website. Within 72 hours, we sold out of our 150 kits. Now, she was sourcing products, putting the products together. I was packing, marketing, doing everything from this room. And I tell you what, I would start packing orders at 3 a.m. in the morning. I would go to bed, sometimes later. I was even decanting powder into jars at 3 a.m. with a teaspoon. Like, that's where we started. And making sure I had all the levels right. I was so tired. And it was just mayhem. We weren't keeping up with the volume of the orders coming through. I think at one point we were doing like 20 grand a week, and that was within the first 6 months. Whatever that equates to, I don't know. But then we kept on going into lockdowns. But the funny thing is that we came up with this concept and the product was so good. And women were starting to get obsessed. So I started to build the inventory. Now, how I looked at it is that let's come up with color. I'm all about fashion, right? So I'm all about colors and I love color. So I was releasing collections of color based on season trends. And they were just going out the door. And that to this day is like the thing. So yeah, we went from 0 to 100 very quickly. I was driving around, dropping them kits off when we were allowed to, all around Melbourne, Geelong. God, we even found girls who couldn't work, but they were allowed to drive. So we'd pay them per drop off because Australia Post went crazy as well. So we've really gone through pretty much everything, but we've survived it all. We've made some mistakes, but we've also been very authentic and honest with our customers and dealt with the mistakes that we've made along the way. But yeah, so that's kind of like what dipped is and what it's become. We were the first and the original dip powder system that you can do at home. And it is such a game changer. And more so for the fact now that I'm a mum and we're both mums, is that I can do this while my baby's sleeping and I've got lasting nails that won't chip and I can have them on for 3 weeks and I can change them and change the colors on demand. So it's really grown. And since we started the business, other businesses have tried to imitate, come on board, come on the market and, try and take a little piece of the pie. And their products are coming straight from China. We've started to get some of our products from China, but we still offer the most variety and we still offer Australian-made liquids. So that's probably our biggest point of difference. But yeah, honestly, lockdowns were crazy. I was pregnant in one of them. I ended up having to get a permit to have a girl come and help me pack orders because I was so sick with morning sickness. And so what would happen is Natalia, she packs orders now from Melbourne. So she's got like a big office set up with all of her powders and inventory. We've got 4 sheds, I think, where we hold all of our stock and then she takes that to her place. I have all the marketing stock and promotional stock. So I shoot it, I work out how I'm going to sell it and package it up. And then she does all of the actual packing of orders and actually ordering all the big stuff that we need. There were some weeks where the orders were so insane that she had to send me half of the orders. So what is successful? I don't really know. Some days you might have like a $20,000 plus worth of orders. And what does that look like in terms of packaging? We have boxes that we have to fulfill and each box is custom to whatever the customer requires, So it was a lot of orders that we needed to get done. So she'd send with a driver half the orders to Geelong. And I tell you, I would have like about 10 sacks, post sacks full of orders. And that was just half. And she would have the same for a day. So if that gives you any indication of how many customers we've reached over the last 3 years, I couldn't even tell you. Like it's tens of thousands, or I don't even know. Oh my God, I should know this.
What I find really interesting about your story is, there's just so many learnings, and in terms of themes and things that I hear from business owners a lot, it's that, do you know what, I'm just going to start something with no expectation, just going to make it really small, and just kind of drop it into whatever outlet that I have. Example, Natalia's website. And then it grows and it grows and it grows. And it's like, I didn't plan for this. Now I have to retrospectively sort this out and learn everything and
can I
build a business.
She said to me, oh, Nadia, look, we probably won't sell much. And then I'm thinking, well, I do have Instagram. Like the biggest blessing was the fact that I did have Instagram, because what that did for me was I had customers, I had a community. And whilst it's not every single follower I have isn't going to go, oh my God, dipped is for me. But there's a percentage of women, they could be man or woman, as long as they love to do their nails, but they have to be the right demographic to want the product. So even though we didn't kill it within, yes, we sold out and, we were chasing orders. If we knew better and we knew how to stock up and we had a secure product, we were struggling because we couldn't keep up with the supply and the demand, and the manufacturers couldn't keep up with our orders in Australia. And it was horrendous sometimes. And we'd have to send products back because, oh my God, we got screwed over so many times. We had this supplier and we still work with her, bless her, but she just couldn't keep up with the demand and couldn't get the product to where it needed to be in terms of packaging. She would send us product that wasn't filled correctly. Now we're talking like it's the liquids are glue. So, and she sourced bottles that didn't seal properly. So the bottles would dry out. So customers were coming back saying, I can't use this product because it's dried out. So no matter how many times I went back and forth, like it was just awful, or send us the wrong color, she would send us something completely different. So we would have like our set original colors that we would have. And then all of a sudden she'd send us something that was not right, like completely off. So if someone had pink lemonade and then opened up the jar and it wasn't pink lemonade and it didn't look like the color that they've been wearing for the last year, well, they're not going to be happy. So we had a lot of issues like that. We had product that just was spoilt and we'd send it out and it was just wrong. Bottles going out without brushes in them. So people like go to do their nails and then they go and pick, and they're like, I can't, I'm halfway doing my nails. Like this is a system that you need everything to be there. Because once you start the process, it is a bastard if you can not complete the system, right? So we had lots of situations. We had situations where she would have us over a barrel. Like she would make us invest over 20 grand, just would sit in her account, you know.
God, that would be scary.
Yeah, she just wanted the money up front and then was giving us such a poor quality product that was causing us so much stress, but we had nowhere else to go. Yes, it was Australian, but then there were so many issues and mostly it was the bottle. The bottle caused us so many issues. Oh, there was one time where we were ordering glass bottles and they need to be glue brushes, which means that they don't go hard in the bottle. We got bottles from a supplier in Adelaide. Oh my God, that was awful. That was awful. So all of a sudden the bottles were shattering. The product was just, we were getting the product put into the bottles and it was something in the bottle was making the product just go hard, solid, like concrete. So we were like, okay, these are the bottles that we've been getting for the entire pandemic. And all of a sudden it changed. And when we were spending, oh God, what would it be? Like around $10 a bottle is what that was worth. Like it was liquid gold at the time, maybe not quite 10, but close to. And it was just, the entire thing was going hard.
Oh, wow.
So we're throwing money away and sending that out to a customer who open up their packet and all of a sudden they've got this product that's unusable. Like, how does that make us look? So there was a lot of situations where we had to communicate to our customers. I'd jump on Instagram, talk about the product, authentically real. If you've got issues, come back to us. I would send out emails saying a recall if there was something that went out that was wrong. I would send out big discounts to people as well if they needed to refresh their products, all sorts of things. Constantly sending out, like, you know how much postage is? Constantly.
That's so slow.
It hasn't been an easy 3 years, but you know what? We had all the time in the world in pandemic to iron out those issues. We didn't have anyone competing for our time. We just had our business. And I think that was the biggest blessing. But yeah, like I think the biggest thing was my business partner saying, oh, well, you know, we can just sell it like this. And it's like, no, this is my face on the brand. And we need to be honest and we need to customer service first, always. Even if that means that we're going to take an initial hit, we need loyalty.
How do you navigate your partnership with your business partner? Is there some foundations that were set up front where you were able to establish your different skills and what you could bring and how you'd work through some of this stuff?
No, you think to yourself, oh, look, it's so simple. Like these are your skills and my skills, and then we just like make it work. No, we could see what we were good at because we just get it done. She's just a doer and gets shit done. I probably don't. I take more time. And it was finding that balance between us. In terms of skill set, like we had massive teething issues. And I think it was very much a bit of a bicep flex in the beginning when we started the business. And I'll be very honest with you, there was a time where we thought we were going to have to break up. And that was quite early on in the business because we just could not see eye to eye. And at one point she was like, I'm going to get a truck and I'm going to get all the stock to you. Or it was this, okay, we'll just get rid of the business. We'll just turn it off. And I said, well, we can't because my face is all over this business. And a lot of it was because she was trying to step onto my turf and I was trying to step onto her turf. So the areas in which I had studied and I knew my shit on, she was trying to sort of step in and start throwing a weight around there. And then I was sometimes stepping into her space and territory. And that's where conflict was starting to happen. And I'm a pretty agreeable person, but it's funny how these sorts of things can really put a lot of pressure on a relationship. The other thing as well is that we didn't pay ourselves. So we put money into the business and then we generated the business through the money that was coming in, the revenue that we were making. And we just kept on reinvesting that into product. So we never actually paid ourselves any money ever in the first year. Then we went to the accountant and worked out how we can have ourselves on a salary. So we both are now on a salary. And I think a lot of it was because she kind of had the account as well. She was managing that account. The way that she spent her money is very different to the way that I spend my money. I'm a bit more of a miser and she's a little bit more of I changed my mind. I'll buy $1 million. And look, we're now at this point where there's times where she was like, okay, let's go and do nail polish. And so she actually bought out pretty much there's this one brand that she wanted. And she's like, it's going to go crazy. It's going to be great. And it was just such a bad decision. And I knew it, but I just had to let her do it at the time. And now she says to me, oh, that was such a bad decision. Oh, that didn't really work. The other one was nail wraps, which are these things that stick on your nails. Everything that wasn't dipped, she thought it was a great idea because she wasn't a dipped fan in the beginning. And this is the thing, the reason why it worked is because I'm a diehard dipped nail person and our customers are diehards. She's not a diehard, but she does all the packaging. She doesn't promote it. She's just purely in the process of getting the products that I request. And that's how it works with us. That's our business because we've worked it out.
It makes sense to be able to go through the process and learn about each other, to be able to find those strengths and be willing to stick it out and be resilient through those processes. And sometimes when we're on these journeys of trying things for ourselves and seeing what sticks, just kind of knowing you want to create a business is going to be really great. Sometimes you do throw shit at a wall and see if it sticks and it just doesn't. And it's about coming back to what is it that you want to deliver to the world?
Why. It's always back to that why. It's back to that why. Why are we doing this and why? And you've also got to look at it from the customer's perspective, what's sticky? What do they want? It's not what you want. It's not what you think makes sense to put this and this product together. It's a niche market. So anything that works and anything that makes that process easier and affordable, they want it. And what do they want? They want color. That's what's going to keep the business rolling. Top up of liquids, top up of new colors. That's what keeps people going. Something new. Women are obsessed with this product. It's crazy. I mean, I am because I love the fact that it's just a skill that I've learned. It's a skill that I've learned now, and I no longer need to rely on a salon ever again for it. I can do myself and still be polished and be a mum, a busy mum. And the women in my parent group are like, why are your nails always looking so good? You're a mum. You're meant to be a mum. I'm like, oh, well.
Dipsnails.com, babe. Dipsnails.com.
Yeah, you spend all your time. You must spend all your time at a salon. Seriously.
No, we all want a little bit of color. I think, what is it, in the 2008 recession, one of the only industries to grow or categories to grow through that time was lipstick. So it was, as sad as things are, sometimes you just want to feel fab. And there's no different.
It's exactly that. And it's affordable. I went to the supermarket just before, $200 for something that I would have probably only spent $100 on a year ago or less than. It's a lot. So you've got to find ways of still looking after yourself and feeling good about yourself without spending $80 every time you go to the salon to do your nails.
Tapping back into your marketing consultancy space for a little bit and thinking about those people who might be listening who want to start a brand, just something for themselves, something that really fits their lifestyle. Could be a product, could be a service offering, but something that fits them. And what advice with your marketing hat on would you give to those guys who perhaps don't have an Instagram community that they've been able to develop or keep? If they're starting from scratch, what advice would you give to them?
Think of it like this. If you start a business, a lot of people get stuck on what is it going to be, right? I think you've got to look for a product or something that you love enough to have in your life, a challenge. I always looked at dipped as being a challenge for me because it was a skill set that I didn't have, but now I have, and it's changed my life now because it's not just changed my life, but it's changed thousands of people around Australia's life. So think of it like a product that you love, that you could imagine spending some time with. Then also think about it. If you don't have an Instagram following, let's say you're building an Instagram following, you've got to think of it like this. If you've got 100 followers on Instagram, or your business has only 200 followers to begin with, well, it's going to take time to build that. So what is the point of spending all this time in your marketing to create marketing for those 200 people? Because there's only 200 people who are probably only following to support your brand anyway, and they may not be interested in the product, or they're just friends and they've already bought the product or you've given it to them. So you're wasting time marketing to those 200 people and spending all of this time creating beautiful Canva images and photo shoots for your 200 followers. I spoke to a guy who I worked with as a marketing consultant on another brand, and he was in charge of SEO and Google and doing all the ads and the website. Now, when I spoke to him about Dipped, the first thing he did was, before he worked with me on it, was he did a bit of a search. He has the software to do some tracking and worked out how many people in Australia were searching for dip powder, SNS, anything related to that product. Now, we worked out that there was 27,000 people a month searching for SNS, whether it be salon, nails, do it your home, whatever it was, anything around nails. 27,000 people. That is a lot of people. If you could get 10% of that, what is that as a customer value? So that means that there's opportunity for me that I should invest on Google, because they are looking in Google search for that product. So that's number one. Number two is, if you don't have Instagram and you've chosen a product that people aren't really searching for online, it's a bit convoluted, or too many people are already trying to eat at that piece of the pie, well, then you need to look at influencer marketing. What that will do is it will help build your branding Instagram page and start bringing other people's followers to your page. And that's when you start investing in beautiful Canva imagery, lovely photos, so that you've got a community. How do you build a community? Keep on collaborating with other like-minded brands who are in a similar space, or who are generous enough to share their following with you by doing competitions or by doing giveaways. But you need to be in a similar echelon, like a similar space to that brand for it to work. So if it's kids stuff, baby stuff, well, then it's going to make sense for you to collaborate with other baby brands that are a bit different, but are of the same sort of demographic and niche. Also, aligning yourself with micro influencers is a wonderful thing. I've got a new product that I'm working on at the moment, which is called the Daily Brush.
Congratulations.
It's the best brush you'll ever have. I don't say so myself. That's the reason why I designed it, because it feels amazing and it's detangling, great for kids. Now, people aren't searching Google for hairbrushes. It's not niche enough. There's no reason for people to Google it as much. So there's not really the market there. So you've got to think about where it really fits. Align yourself with influencers, or align yourself with someone who's great on camera, who wants to talk about your product, even if they don't have a following. Use those videos for ads on Facebook, but you need to find specialists in those areas. That's the key, people that you trust, because when you start working on website, Facebook ads, Google, SEO, you really need to know that they're doing the right job and that they are doing a proper job for you, because you can be throwing money on a wall, throwing it in the bin, if you don't have someone who's actually really strategically aligned with your business and your business goals. But at the end of the day, at the end of the month, you should be able to see how much money you've invested, how many customers have bought from each of those channels, as long as you have a tracking pixel on your website. So there's certain things that you should definitely do. And I feel like when you're starting a business and you're not wanting to kind of overcommit, you're not sure if you should do all of these things, because it's an investment. If I had my time again, I would have invested a lot more into my business, and I would have done things a lot quicker and taken those risks a lot quicker, if that makes sense. It was a nice soft start to the business by using influencer marketing, because it didn't flood it to, like, yes, we were chasing with the supply and demand, but it wasn't like, you know, Kim Kardashian picking up your dip powder kit and then all of a sudden you've got people from all over the world and you just can't even get them the product, and you think, oh my God, all that money gone down the drain. Because once that happens and you're not prepared on the back end, you've lost those people for life. You don't want to go too big too quick, because if you can't meet that supply and demand, it's not like they're going to be like 6 months later, oh, I might give them a go again, might search for that again. It's like once it goes viral, it's done. You need to commit.
That's such generous advice, Nadia. That is absolutely the theme of your chat with me today, which has been generosity in lifting the lid on what was a big experience for you leading into this new business and starting this career over again and going through the journey of building what is now an incredibly exciting business that's only going to go from strength to strength. So I can't thank you enough for the generosity you've shown and vulnerability in sharing your story with me today. There's just so many learnings there to take away. So my final question for you today is, what can I and the listener do to support you on your next stage as you grow?
Oh gosh, that's really kind. I guess just engage with my products if it is of interest to you, but only if it's of interest to you. I definitely don't want people using products that they don't want or aren't important to them. So, but I feel like the daily brush is definitely something that every woman should need and should want and will love. And also, if you've got kids that struggle to have their hair brushed, this is probably the brush that you'll wish you discovered earlier. I think this is enough in terms of supporting my journey, just listening to my podcast with you. So thank you.
And I just got to see Giselle's beautiful little head of hair very briefly just at the door over your shoulder. So I can imagine that she will be a primary candidate for said daily brush.
She already uses it. She gets that matted bit at the back of their head. It's safe for them to use as well. Once you start with one business, you always, I tell you what, if that's what your listeners are all about, yeah, it's quite easy to fall into that trap of another one and then another one and then another one. So yeah, Amen. That's where all my money goes.
I love it. I think it's just exploring your curiosities, and you know what you're capable of is just such an exciting space to be. So congratulations to you for backing yourself and doing it. Thank goodness for Natalia at the airport, stopping the lady crying in the airport over her keys and starting what is, you know, a beautiful journey that was always ready for you and always waiting for you. So Nadia, I'll make sure to have the links to your page, to Dipped and the Daily Brush as well, and the website in the show notes so that listeners can go and engage with you, check it out for themselves and give it a go. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It's been a pleasure to hear your story.
Thank you so much, Kim. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Unemployed and Afraid, the stories of starting over with your host, me, Kim Curtin. If you liked the episode and are keen to hear more, please hit the follow button and leave a review. And let's keep the conversation going on Instagram at Unemployed and Afraid, where there's more goodies and links to today's show notes. See you there.